Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hope it's going well. Out for a little ride today. Got some things to do, so thought I'd make a little video here. Wanted to talk about what makes a good touring motorcycle today. Got my big trip coming up, going to Alaska, and it also is. It looks beautiful today, but it's like 50 degrees here, and it's a lot colder than I thought it was. And when I hopped on my moped this morning, I was actually freezing, and like, it looks beautiful. It's like almost summer.
Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe today.
But here we are. It's like 45 degrees or something here today, so that brings me to my first point of what makes a good touring motorcycle is weather protection. Moped obviously is tiny and has no protection, and that thing is cold on days like today. You are freezing. And when I hop on bikes like this with all the protection for your knees and everything, it feels so much nicer. I'm not cold. I'm actually pretty comfortable now. So obviously it keeps the wind and the cold off of you. Lowrider ST right there. Pretty slick. Keeps the wind and the cold off you. But also if you're ever riding in the rain, BMWs, and this bike especially, is really good at keeping the rain off you because your whole body's covered, you know, your knees, your feet, everything, your hands. I mean, you have a shield in front of you. Everything stops the rain, and unless it's torrential downpour, it keeps you dry. So wind and weather protection is a big one there. Also, part of that is a windshield. Extra points if it's adjustable. Love adjustable windshields, but windshields in general keep the wind off your face, especially if you're doing long miles, long days on the highway. It's of course good to keep all the wind off your face. You know, so you don't get too fatigued or blasted with bugs or anything else, cold, hot, whatever. Of course, there's the opposite of that. If you're riding when it's 100 degrees, you might not want all this weather and wind protection. You might want some air. So you don't overheat too much. Another thing that's nice on these colder days, heated grips. You know, that's nice if it's cold, but it's also nice. Also nice if it's raining and you just need to dry out your gloves a little bit. You throw those on low, it'll help dry out your gloves. You know, wet gloves when you're trying to grab on the handlebars all day, that is not the most comfortable thing ever. So those can always just help dry out your gloves too. Another thing not really showcased right here, but in this box, that is a radio box. If you like listening to music and don't have a center or something set up, I guess we're all going here, so I'm going too. If you don't have a center in your helmet, you like listening to music, some entertainment on those long days, you know, a radio's nice. I have both, and you know, sometimes I use one or the other, but honestly, I would recommend a Senna in your helmet. I've been using that more and more. watch my speeds here. You never know where the cops are around in this city. That also brings up another point. You're probably going to want a motorcycle with enough power to get you up to speed. You know, a good gearbox, 5-6 speeds. You're going to want something that has enough horsepower and speed to be able to comfortably cruise cities, highways, whatever it might be. Usually anything with wind protection, with the exception of a few bikes. If you got wind protection, windshield, stuff like that, from the factory, you'll have enough horsepower to get you going on the highway. Not to mention it's fun. Another thing you might want to consider if you're doing long days, riding in early in the morning or late into night, some auxiliary lighting here. These are just fog lights on this bike, but you know, just a little bit extra lighting. Some of these motorcycles today don't have the best headlights, and so every little bit helps. Not only helps you see things, but oh gosh, what do we have here? Not only helps you see things, but also helps others see you, like that guy. Make sure he doesn't run out in front of you. Gosh, we are cooking today. Yikes. Some other things, trip meter. Most motorcycles have a trip meter, but this is nice to keep track of your miles during the day. What's even nicer on newer bikes, this bike doesn't have it, but a fuel range. This one has a fuel gauge, you know, some way to keep track of your fuel. It is nice to see exactly, roughly, how many miles you have, what the computer thinks you have. You know, that's not always accurate, don't trust that always. But it's nice to kind of have an idea. Fuel gauge works just fine. Temperature gauge is also nice. You know, sometimes you get in traffic jams on the highway or something. You want to make sure your bike's not overheating, having any problems there. You know, newer bikes probably have radiator fans and stuff that'll help you, but some of these older bikes, this one's air and oil cooled, so when you're just sitting there, you will cook the motor if you sit there in hot weather for too long. But most of the bikes I use on touring now have radiators and fans that cool them off, so that's nice. I see him looking at me. Are you going to move over, buddy, or taking them long enough? Gosh, people are just bombing it down this highway today. Another almost essential part of touring, big thing. Side bags, trunk, you know, some sort of storage. Some sort of storage to put your stuff in. You know, you're probably going to need to bring clothes or tools, whatever it might be. You know, it depends how long the trip is, but some sort of storage to keep something is nice. And also something that's not a part of the bike is you're going to want to make sure you bring warm clothes. Clothes for if it's super hot, clothes for if it's super cold. Somewhat dependent on, you know, where you're all going, but, you know, sometimes even in areas that are supposed to be super cold, you'll have a super hot day, or the other way around. You know, if the deserts get cold early in the morning, even though they're 100 degrees during the day or more. You know, the temperature and the weather can be all over the place. I've taken this bike all the way out to Yellowstone in Wyoming, through the Badlands, South Dakota. We went out to Wyoming then, went all over Wyoming, came back through North Dakota. It's about a 4,000 mile trip or so. The RT bikes from BMW are great tours. This bike's 22 years old now. Great machine, great tour. Yeah, these bikes are kind of nice in the middle, because you get like Harleys, big tours like that, they get to be super heavy. Not everybody wants a super heavy bike. The RTs are a nice mix in the middle of heavy enough. You know, always would take a lighter bike, but it's heavy enough and it's got enough stuff where it's good at touring, but it's not your 1,000-pound Harley. Bike's about 600 pounds and it's one of my heaviest, but I mean, then I have like GS's 450 pounds, something like that. You know, still a great touring bike, just not the 1,000 pounds that are super hard doing slow speed maneuvers at points or whatever, you know, especially if you're a new beginner rider. Bikes are just nice and a little bit lighter, but still can do all the touring and everything. And, you know, that helps speed, sport tours, lighter bike, faster bike. Another thing that is great, you don't really think about it until you have one, but it's one of those things where once you get one, you never want to go back. It's a gear position indicator. Those are a lifesaver. I know I had a couple bikes without them, and you know, sometimes on those longer trips, you're like, yeah, I don't even know what gear I'm in. You know, it doesn't really matter, but it is nice if you're going around corners in third and fourth. It's nice to know. Or even if you're sitting at a stoplight, you know, you want to make sure you're not in second, taking off from second. It's just nice to be able to see that without feeling the bike at all. And then another just general thing is you want a reliable machine, you know. Boxer motors from BMW, they're super reliable, they're super great. I mean, there's a whole bunch of reliable motors, you know, any Honda are out there. Most of the newer Harleys are super reliable. But yeah, you want a reliable machine. You want to enjoy the adventure and see everything you're seeing and make sure you're not breaking down all the time. The Supra. Make sure you're not breaking down all the time though. So you're going to want a reliable bike. Also features, this bike has shaft drive. A lot of my bikes have shaft drive. Shaft drive, belt drive, pretty low maintenance, nothing to really worry about. Chain is a little bit more maintenance if you're lubing it. And having to adjust it. Just a little bit more maintenance. Another thing, big gas tank. 6-gallon gas tank here. And you know, anything 5 gallons is okay. Could be a little better. 6. My newer RT is 7 gallons. Big gas tank is nice, large range. You can go a long way without having to stop at a gas station. Also doing highway speeds here, you know, you want the bike to be comfortable at highway speeds, 70, 80, whatever it might be. There's going to be those days, unless you really take a long time to do your trip, where you just need to sit on a highway to get somewhere. And you're going to have to do 600 or 1,000 miles on a highway. And yeah, it's not going to be fun, but, you know, pick a bike that does it well. I mean, highways are a big thing too. A lot of people think about the wind coming at you. You want a windshield, but bikes differ a lot in the wind from side to side. You want to make sure you're not getting blown all over the place all the time. So, you know, make sure you take your bike out on the highway and test it before you take off on this long trip to make sure you're not miserable and being blown all over all the place. And, you know, make sure you do your maintenance too. Make sure you got enough tire for the trip. Make sure you don't have to change the oil, or if you are forced to change the oil, make sure you bring enough oil to change it on the trip, and try to plan for that. Try to plan where you're going to do it or how you're going to do it. We have stopped at Valvolines before when we do 10,000 mile trips. We've stopped at a Valvoline and said, hey, we need to just change our oil quick. We know how to do it. We can do it in your parking lot. We just pretty much need someplace to put the oil in the middle of the trip because we can't dispose of it right now. And, you know, if they're pretty accommodating, they'll be like, yep, you know, go for that. We can help you out there. Something to think about there. Of course, if you're doing a 10,000 mile trip, though, you've probably done something before. Probably done a trip before and know what you're doing. I mean, and I think the biggest teacher for these trips is to just go and do one. You're never going to know what you don't know until you go and try it out and figure out what you don't know. And I'm still learning things. You know, you're always learning things. You go on a trip and you can always forget about something or take a different bike and learn something new about what you like or don't like or need. The biggest thing I would say is just get out there and try it for yourself, honestly. I think the last thing I want to mention is a good suspension. Again, most touring bikes will probably have a good suspension, but you want something that's soft and will keep you comfortable and have a plush ride. Something to think about there. Okay, last thing I wanted to add to this video, a comfortable seat really helps, and also cruise control is obviously a really nice feature. So with that, I think we're actually concluded with everything. So thank you for watching.